Every president starts out their term in their own unique way. Here to help us compare and contrast those critical first 100 days are presidential historians Doug Wead and Craig Shirley. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, Steve.
You bet. So listen, we're going to class a little bit tonight with the historians. We're going to class to learn about presidential history. So Doug Wead, I want to ask you first, what is it? Is there something magical actually about those first few months? Why is 100 days so consequential?
Well, the media made it a big deal. It started with FDR because he turned things around so quickly. But so they like to compare the numbers. George W. Bush passed 7 bills in his first 100 days. Bill Clinton, 22. Barack Obama, 14. The biggest of all modern times, Donald Trump had 29. But the real thing is what direction you're going in. If you're a leftist, it doesn't matter how many bills or how fast you're moving in that 100 days. It's what direction. If you believe in the Constitution, then you want your president to take you that way. And the speed sometimes is only important to the media. They like to measure that.
So, Craig, would you maybe give a grade to how it's going so far, comparatively speaking, to some past administrations in history with President Biden?
Yeah, that's a good question, Heather. I would give Biden, President Biden, a gentleman's C for what he's done. He's used the executive orders for 17 different executive directives from the president. He hasn't passed anything in the House or the Senate, so his standard is probably more of an incomplete. And as far as that goes, Doug is exactly right. This is a narrative that is defined by the national media, and if the national media is liberal, as it always has been since the time of FDR forward, they define success in the first 100 days as more grab of government from the states and localities and ultimately the individual. More grab for power, more grab for regulation, more grab for money. Unfortunately, Reagan did a lot in his first 100 days, and even though he was stymied by the assassination attempt, he did get significant tax and regulatory bills passed, but the media didn't regard it as substantial, even though it was, because it was reversing the flow of power. It wasn't taking power from the locality to Washington. It was reversing it and sending it back from Washington to the localities. And so the media doesn't regard that as essential or noteworthy.
Even though it may very well be, it certainly is in a lot of our minds. Doug Wead, I want to go back to you again and ask you, about, it's often said, and I think it's correct, that personnel is policy. And so one thing I will say I think Biden's doing very well, very quickly, is he's firing Trump loyalists who are still left around, something which I think President Trump didn't do to his detriment. Your thoughts about the early firings of Joe Biden in these first few days?
Yeah, that's extremely critical. By the way, Craig Shirley, I saw your 1968 documentary on Newsmax, and it's superb. I'd love to see you do another one. But you're right,
Thanks,
Steve. In fact, when I worked for George H.W. Bush, it was all about personnel, and we were trying to get Senator John Tower to be the Secretary of Defense, and we got blocked. So we're going to see how many of Biden gets through. And the comical thing was he got blocked, and they shut him down because they said he's an alcoholic. Now, what's so funny about that is there were probably only 4 U.S. senators who weren't alcoholics. But they booted John Tower out in the hypocrisy of their day. So, yeah, it's going to be fun to watch Biden and see he's got the votes if he can get all his people into positions of power.
Yeah, Craig, we only have about 1 minute, less than 1 minute left. Your final thought?
Well, just a fun anecdote. Fritz Hollings, who was a very charismatic Democratic senator from South Carolina, confirmed what Doug was saying about the Senate. He once told a reporter, he said that most of the senators were, and this was in the 1980s, most of the senators were confirmed alcoholics who barely got through the day without hitting the bottle pretty hard. So that was in those days. So that's just a fact of life. But another fact of life is the media is left wing, and they are going to define much of what is successful or unsuccessful in a President Joe Biden administration, especially the first 100 days.
Yeah, that's so unfortunate, and we need to do something about that. Doug and Craig, thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, Heather. Steve.
Great to have you with us on this Saturday.
My friends are calling me all the time and writing me and saying, "You've disappeared from television. We can't find you. We don't see you anymore." This is the only way we've figured out how to beat the censors. If you subscribe to this channel, hit the subscribe button and then hit the bell, you'll get notification when I'm on TV. Otherwise, you won't get my Instagrams, my messages on Facebook. It's censorship. So I want to hear from you. I want you to be able to hear from me.